Oh, hello again, everyone. We're back with some more stuff to talk about,
Yeah,
and
it's these guys again.
view behind the curtain. Me and Steve, literally, just as I press record, we're like, "What are we doing again?" Because we've spent an hour catching up, but no real detail in what we're going to talk about. But one thing we do need to talk about is Matt and Steve's TTRPG Accountability-ometer 2025. As it stands, Steve is in the lead, 3-2. Now there has been some updates to this. There's been some movement.
Mm.
The first thing that needs to be said is due to factors out of my control that are sadly unavoidable. Legend of the Mist is going to have to leave my list and has been replaced by Public Access. Now, Public Access
Ooh.
is a game that I've wanted to play for a long time. It's another Jason Cordova joint, so the writer of The Between. You know, I like that game, and I just think I'm more likely to get a game of Public Access on the table this year than I am. I can't get Legend of the Mist on the table this year now. So Public Access rounds out my roster, my choice of games. But also, that's not the only change. I've played one of my games, Steve. Can you believe it?
I can believe it.
Yeah, I've played Teeth. My group that I got together for Teeth back in February, I believe, who were ready to play Teeth in February, before getting distracted by the Blade 68 playtest. We played that instead, and then managed to rearrange this game of Teeth for last week. I'm not going to go too much into it because I am going to be talking about it on the channel at some point in a bit more detail. But what I can say is I had a great time, and would heartily recommend Teeth and all the one shots that come with the main game of Teeth. I'm not going to say which one we played because, again, I'd like to talk about it on my main channel, but thoroughly recommend. Great time, great table, great game. So that brings the score to 3-3, and we're getting into crunch time now, Steve. One of these is a game that we've got scheduled to play together, but the rest are very much like it was going to be a mad dash to the finish line.
Yep. As we knew it would be.
As we knew it would be. And like we've got a few solo games on there and a few small table games on there that we can get through. But Auto Prisma and Public Access and Last Train to Bremen need other people. So they might be a bit tougher to squeeze in, but we'll see. And we know that you're heavily invested, viewers, in how we get on. But that's where we left it. So with all that aside, Steve, what are we talking about this month?
Well, before we get to that, I do have one update, and this is I'm springing this on Matt.
Oh God!
This is a genuine reaction. I'm leaving the show. No, that's
finally.
Finally, right? No, actually, I wanted to do a little bit of an update because we talked about burnout last time, and I am a couple weeks into my hiatus from my main campaign, which is great because it's giving me the opportunity to look at some of my solo games that I need to play for our 2025 list of games. But, and this is a weird thing to say as somebody who creates podcasts, I am like 2 or 3 weeks sober from podcasts. I have been forcing myself not to listen to things all the time to try and give myself a little bit of brain space back. And for the first time in a while, on Wednesday, I sat down and wrote for fun. Just sat down because I had an idea. I was washing the dishes in absolute silence. And I was like, I've had an idea. And then I was thinking about that idea. And then I went, I've had a second idea. I was like, oh no, what is this? It turns out when your brain is not constantly under stimulation, you have time to think about and generate ideas. So, I then proceeded to like gut out 500 words because, turns out sitting down and writing something for fun sometimes is challenging, especially when it's in a different style than what I've been writing all my like podcast scripts and everything in. But the update is that I am working towards healing my brain, and it's going okay so far.
That's amazing. And it's like, you know, we're not saying that listening to podcasts is inherently wrong, but what we are saying is, you know, give yourself that space to reflect and think and you know, focus on things that you might otherwise push to the back, because if you do, you may end up, you know, letting them fester, and, you know, things often don't turn out well when they've festered. You want to, you know, be able to enjoy things like listening to podcasts and playing games, but you also want to give yourself the time to think about your life and what you're doing. And, you know, I commend you, Steve, for that update. That's really lovely to hear that you've sat down and written for fun, because you know, that's really nice. That's you know, and hopefully you can work towards finding that balance of, like, you know, being able to keep up with your favorite podcasts and listen to things, but not using it as the kind of the pacifier that we all use things like that for. So
well, and I have a 2-hour drive coming up next week, and I'm like, I'm already starting to like compile my list of like, oh, I need to listen to this show, and I need to listen to this show, and I need to listen to this show, because I have nothing else to do but drive. And that's the perfect time to listen to podcasts.
That is the perfect time to listen to podcasts.
So, yeah.
Very good. But so everyone give Steve a round of applause at home. But yes, that's well deserved. But yeah, on a similar, when we were talking about the burnout thing last week, a lot of people watched that video, and we got a lot of comments about it. They're really nice. A lot of people shared their experiences as well, which is really nice. But like, my very strict, I do 2 things a week policy has meant that now, if you want me for anything, I'll see you in 2026, because I am now, as of now, completely booked for the year. And you know, I've got people are saying, hey, I've got a Mythic Bastionland game going, and I'm like, cool story, bro. I'm really busy, and if it's next year, then maybe, but right now I can't do it. I mean, I could, but that would mean sacrificing the balance that I do not want to sacrifice. So that's kind of where my update stands from that last video. But yeah, it's good that you've have come along nicely. Love it.
Thank you.
Right.
Let's talk about Ironsworn.
Any more surprises for me, Steve?
No, none at all. That's it.
Okay. So what are we talking about?
Ironsworn.
Ironsworn. That's right. We're the Ironsworn guys. That's what we.
They are the Ironsworn guys.
But why?
Figured we should come back to it.
Yeah. Why particularly now?
Well, it just so happened that I guess I do have another update, which is I deleted all the social media apps off my phone as well. But before I did that, I was on BlueSky last month, and that doesn't mean that I'm not still, you know, I still check them, but they're not as readily available. I have to go onto my computer and like purposefully like open them up to check them. But I was on BlueSky in July, and Sean, the wonderful designer of Ironsworn, was talking about how it was the 7-year anniversary of the release of Ironsworn, the original Ironsworn, back in 2018. And I thought that it would be fun for us to talk a little bit about and celebrate Ironsworn and the family of Ironsworn games from their inception in 2018, how they've grown and changed over the years. And you know, we've got some peaks through the like stuff that Sean has posted in the Ironsworn Discord about what's coming in the future for Ironsworn and the Ironsworn kind of supplements and stuff like that. And I thought it'd be fun to talk about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think that it's always nice to kind of check in on the state of a game, especially one that's been out a while, because 7 years is a long time for a game to be out there in the wild, you know. And you think about Sean writing that game and getting it out, and now 7 years later, given the fact that it's also a free game that still to this day you can get for nothing, so many thousands of pairs of eyes must have been on that game now, and we have got to watch the evolution of that system in pretty much real time, because we've both been there since 2019, I think, is when I played it. So very, very close to when it first came out. So I think Lodestar might have been out or might have come out. I definitely remember Delve coming out. So like we've kind of seen every version, every change, every update going on. Obviously, since people who make, who create things around the Ironsworn system, you and I have used an awful lot of it, and I think it's really nice to kind of check in on the state of things, and also like bring some attention to the fact that like the game is in this kind of constant state of flux. And when I say that, I don't mean because obviously a game with an open SRD is obviously going to get a lot of fan-made content, a lot of hacks, a lot of additional things made for it, and you just dip into the Ironsworn Discord and you will see hundreds of third-party things recommended all the time. Some of them, I believe, are fantastic, and people have put a lot of work in. But Sean himself keeps releasing stuff. Like not only did we get like Lodestar, the expanded Lodestar, which for me, along with Delve, sort of completes Ironsworn. Hey, oh, hello. Someone's got a paper copy. Wish I had that paper copy money. Was it,
delicious.
Is it coil bound?
It is. Oh, absolutely.
Hello.
Yeah. It's been very nice. I've started up my co-op Ironsworn, OG Ironsworn game, and between the digital tools and then just having the physical book to flip through, it's been great. It's been everything I needed.
Do you feel like Lodestar is sort of functionally a Ironsworn 1.5, because it kind of, a lot of those rough edges that Ironsworn has, especially if you come from Starforged, have sort of been sanded off in Lodestar? Not completely. It gives you the option to use the Starforged version of some rules, which in Ironsworn could be, how you say, feel bad.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've always thought of like Starforged as Ironsworn 1.5.
Oh, okay.
So I might think of Lodestar as like 1.25.
Okay.
Where it's like bridging the gap a little bit. And I think you can make the argument that like Starforged is its own thing now, and it like the feeling of play between Ironsworn and Starforged, while obviously built off of the same concepts and the same ideas and the same design, they play very differently. They feel very different.
Really do, don't they? And it like that shocked me actually when I went back briefly to Ironsworn, to OG Ironsworn from Starforged, just how
it feels
on edge I felt. I don't know whether that's because when I started Starforged, I boosted my stats, and I only did that because I was so frightened about what had happened to me previously playing Ironsworn that I thought this is going to be a solo campaign, and it would last 2 episodes because my character would be obliterated. But it really does have a different feel and vibe, doesn't it?
Yeah, which like I'm not complaining about. Like it is designed to be more not even challenging, but just like it really puts you into a mindset that makes you feel the hard Scrabble reality of the Ironlands. And it's and I think all of the lessons that we've learned through playing OG Ironsworn and Starforged, like they apply both ways. Whether it's focusing on narrative penalties rather than mechanical penalties and stuff like that. But it's certainly playing OG Ironsworn, and this is exemplified by my most recent game of it. Now, admittedly, it's because I rolled 4 misses in a row. But it was just like chaos of like falling from one just absolute trouble to another. and like still failing forward, but it was definitely I was like, man, I feel like there are more pressure relief valves in Starforged where you can uh not even like get out of things better or easier, but there are just different ways to handle failure in Starforged.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that the game is written to give you more of an easy landing for failure. You know,
Mm.
when you fail, like sometimes the penalties aren't as harsh in Starforged, or they certainly get you like the secure an advantage thing in combat, especially like that's such a big thing, to the point where like you don't want to be in a game, and especially if you're playing a narrative game and you don't want to be doing something that should be beneficial and
Mhm.
looking at it and thinking, like, by the numbers, this is a bad idea. You shouldn't be doing that. So gain
Yeah.
ground instead of secure an advantage, and the weak hit still keeping you in control is actually quite a major change, and completely
Mhm.
changes how that game feels.
Yeah.
But
And also, like, I like that. I like that having specific moves for combat. Like there's a certain, simplicity to just using face danger and secure an advantage to react under fire or gain ground, but like actually having those as a their own move that is named differently,
yeah,
it feels easier to kind of understand, and I think it feels better to when you get into a combat, you're like, okay, I'm shifting gears.
hmm
So it's like I'm facing danger when I'm in adventure mode, and when I'm in combat mode, I'm gaining ground, and it's the same thing,
yeah,
but it's just the way that you're kind of framing it. And I feel like that having now done a couple of combats in OG Ironsworn again,
hmm
uh, I kept having to catch myself being like, all right, we're gonna oh no,
no,
no, we're gonna secure an advantage, and so it's I think having those specific moves for combat really helps to delineate between like adventure mode and combat.
yeah. I also like having the backup of those specific oracles. So
Mhm.
in the new Lodestar, there are some more combat oracles I've always talked about on the
Mhm.
show, about like always run a combat with using the combat oracles, to dictate what your enemies do. It's super fun, super unpredictable.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the oracles in the new Lodestar have got like combat environment
Mm.
oracles, like things that switch those out, which makes that really interesting. So when you switch between the modes of play, it doesn't feel like D&D where you go from loose role play to very structured combat. It feels like
Right.
a step rather than a leap, and you just like, okay, we're using slightly different versions of the rules we've previously been using, but they have
Mhm.
very specific thematic outcomes, and I think that's really fascinating. Another thing that I wanted to add, even talking about Lodestar being Ironsworn 1.5 or 1.25 or 1.38 or
Mhm.
whatever we're calling it, is that I really love how Sean has just continued to release interesting things. Like this
Yeah.
week or 2 weeks ago, he brought interludes into
Yeah.
Starforged. Now, interludes
Yeah.
are, fans of my show would know that I've been doing interludes in my games from the beginning, pretty much.
Mhm.
But to mechanize them for Sundered Isles, I thought was really good, and it was like gave you a little narrative prompt, talked about something you were doing whilst you were having some downtime, and
Mhm.
gave you a good bit of like role play business or a little bit of thematic things. You could reinforce some themes, you could reinforce some character stuff, remind yourself of where your story's going. Just take a second. But obviously Sundered Isles is an expansion for Starforged. So now
Yeah.
there's a rule in Sundered Isles that isn't a thematic rule. It's like it's a structural mechanical thing. So now it's come back into Starforged, and Jason Cordova from the Gauntlet always says, and I really love this phrase, all his games are in conversation with each other. And I feel like that's the case with Ironsworn and Starforged and Sundered Isles, that they are each informing back and forwards in a way that like improves them. So when a new game comes out that builds on what the previous one has done, it's sort of like backward compatible, and you can take things from one into another, and you know. But at the same time, if you don't and just take each game at face value, they all feel unique, and they all feel like they are doing something different to the previous one, which I love.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, you know, and it's cool too that like Sean is supporting it in that way where, you know, even if he just is releasing a like 2-page oracle with different like prompts for interludes and stuff like that, and a new you know, space sighting oracle as part of that kind of interlude into Starforged, like it's still something that you can add into your game and kind of like spruce up Starforged, which like doesn't need sprucing up, but it's there, it's an option, it's available. So which I think is really cool. And I think it is interesting that comment about games and conversation, because I think we definitely see that with that through line of Ironsworn and then Delve coming out, and then the jump from that to Starforged, where Delve becomes part of the core rules with the expeditions, which have become probably my favorite part of Starforged. Like anytime I am playing Starforged, I'm always looking for how can I turn this into an expedition. And like it's really cool to watch that evolution from, you know, OG Ironsworn, then to Delve, then to Starforged with expeditions. And I think that's one of those examples of the game being in conversation with itself, where it's like, okay, we have done this thing now, how can we envision these rules in this sci-fi setting, but also like just start off from the start incorporating them. And I'm excited to see, you know, if there is going to be an evolution of that as we're moving forward into some of the future products, because the other thing that Sean you know, just recently kind of announced is that he's started working on the like adventures in a mega city for Starforged.
Crucible, I believe it's called.
Crucible, yeah. It is probably going to be called something else.
Oh, because there's another game, isn't there, called Crucible?
Because there's some other stuff that have come out recently that are called Crucible, but I'm really intrigued to see if there is either like an addition of kind of other aspects of like expeditions to specifically for like megacities, or if there's some sort of evolution of the expedition system specifically for, you know, running an expedition within a megacity.
I think that's the important thing, is that like, and why we talk so much about evolution is that you don't want Sundered Isles to just be pirate themed Starforged. It has to have mechanical differences, and it has to feel significantly different. So we have the naval encounters, we have treasure, we have the cursed die, we have all of those other bits and pieces, those kind of bells and whistles that are additions to the game that make it feel more like a high seas pirate adventure, or makes it at least feel like more like a swashbuckling adventure, rather than just like, oh, it's just all you know, it's cosmetic skins that are just being stapled onto this base game. And that's why Starforged was great, because it was an evolution of Ironsworn. But you talk about the exploration mechanics, and you're dead right. Like a lot of what Delve was doing fed into what's now just the standard exploration moves. Like in the original Ironsworn, it was, I think you always just roll plus wits, didn't you? There was just one way to make an expedition. Now you can move at speed, you can move vigilantly, you can try and move with shadow. You can also, and then you have the themed derelicts you can jump into, or themed areas or whatnot. Now, they have come from Delve, but if you go back and look at Delve, there is so much more depth there to the Delve supplement that they didn't take with it, because Delve is its own thing, right? They took what was good and moved it forward. And I'm not saying what they left out was bad. It's just like it made more sense to be in a dungeon diving game, right?
Exactly.
And Delve is full confession, Delve is the one Ironsworn product that I've never really used. I got to the point where I looked at it for my home game that I was playing during COVID with a co-op game that had my friend Tom, and we had set up that we were about to go into like a haunted, like under hollow or something in a wood that was run by cultists, and I started doing the thing where you build it, with you have the card and the theme, and then all the monsters and stuff like that. And then we stopped playing, and it was like, so I never really got to play with it that much. So it was something that, to me, out of all the Ironsworn products, I've had the least experience with. But when I went back to look at it, specifically when I was looking at the new Lodestar supplement, which has got some of the Delve stuff in it, actually realizing how much detail is in there, that whilst yes, we have brought some of that along to Starforged, Delve still remains the pure Delve experience. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And you're 100% correct too, because having run a bunch of Starforged expeditions, like you can get into some of that like detail, but having also played in a co-op Ironsworn game and run a couple of Delves, like it is a very different feel and a very different vibe, and it's a lot of fun too. I'm glad you brought this up, because the monster matrix is so cool. It's such a cool idea.
It's very cool, isn't
because you're preceding this place that you're delving with a few possible, like, oh, these are the most logical encounters that you might discover in this place, but then you leave some of those spaces blank, because the dice always introduce new complications. And it was, I believe, through that, and it's been a while, so I may be misremembering, but I believe it was through that we had set up a couple of like logical encounters on that matrix. But when we were actually delving this like ancient elven ruin, we rolled up some a like rare or like epic encounter, and through that got to this idea of these like this ancient race that was like this red mist that was possessing these like long dead elven bodies, and has now kind of like spiraled out into what may be the overarching kind of conflict of our co-op campaign that we've just kind of restarted playing in the last couple of months, of like, are these things like trying to come up from where they've been buried for all these thousands of years and like take over? Like what's happening here? And that was all because there was a blank spot on that matrix that was like the rarest encounter possible, and we happened to roll that, and we had to figure it out in that moment, and we came up with the most like reasonable and most dramatic thing in that situation, and it has now had like long running repercussions for our campaign. So stuff like that, where it's, constraints with creativity are great. Like you need constraints to be creative, but also leaving those blank spots to fill in is just it's just divine.
Make maps, leave blanks, as they say in PBTA. Just that conversation there just made me long for a co-op game again. I'm desperate for co-op. And yeah, that idea that like I've just had this since Underdials. I've got an episode that's coming out either next week or today, depending on how I get on. But like I've just had a bit where like something comes back into the story, having been rolled up when you were like, I don't know, and it's now all of a sudden the most important thing. I love that. So to have that come from like, okay, well, we'll build potentially what we could discover in this place, but there's enough of this kind of like gray area that if we roll on that, then we could really be into the unknown, which is the exciting thing about those delves. And yeah, that's made me want to do a delve. I'm really curious. I'm incredibly curious about Crucible, the name TBC, the urban exploration version of Starforged, because like for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because I think it has a lot of lore implications, because cities, you know, if you're going around and you're flying around planets and you find the odd settlement, you know, that's easy to explain away, right? But like cities have stories, and Starforged's lore is in your hands, and I'm really curious as to how they're going to handle cities, or how you're going to, what tools we're going to have to define a city's purpose, and like, you know, how that's broken up into districts, and how that's, you know, how that feeds into the wider ecology of Starforged oracles. I'm super fascinated by that. So there's that, and also, you know, the implication that if it's in cities, is it mainly going to be taking place in the terminus area of the Forge, because that is the most populous, most advanced part of the Forge, or is it going to be something else entirely that we're going to have that we just plug in? Because I spent 3 years playing Starforged for my campaign, and we glimpsed at cities in flashbacks and things, but we never spent the time there, because that was too much for my story to have to talk about. So, you know, we had scenes in back alleys and had the suggestion that something was happening somewhere else, or, you know, we visited institutions in cities, and we had this glimpse that there were lights beyond and a life of a bustling metropolis out of the window, but we never really looked at it. But I'm deeply fascinated by how it's going to work, and I'm really excited to get into it, because there are still Starforged stories that I want to tell using the campaign structure that I had for Archer, Luna, and Griff, that I think would be amazing in an urban environment. And I would really love to. I know that the playtest stuff is coming out at some point this year, but I've always just avoided the Starforged playtest stuff, because I'm always like, I just want to get my hands on it when it's you know, it's done, and it's you know, finalized, and its best self. You
don't want to fall in love with something that's in the early draft that doesn't make it,
or ruin it. That's my issue. I'm super fascinated by that. Then also the other expansion that we know we're getting, which is also supposed to be next year, but I don't know how true that is, because we've only really talked about Crucible, or Sean's only really talked about Crucible to this point, was something that was tentatively called Planet Side, I believe, which was the expanded planetary expeditions. So that's going to be super fun. That's going to be super interesting to get into as well, because, you know, the tools with which to explore planets in Ironsworn are already pretty robust. Like, you know, I managed to roll up in my campaign dozens of, you know, very distinct worlds with very distinct features. So to have more tools to make those come to life is going to be really, really cool.
Yeah. I'm looking at the the graphic that Sean posted in the Discord right now, and I think it says on here 2026 for Crucible, 2027 for PlanetSide.
Okay, because I think they were both 2026 when I made my getting started with Ironsworn video at the start of the year. So
I think very reasonably, those are going to take a lot of time and effort to come up with all those extra oracles and everything like that. So give the man some time.
Yeah, we'll let you off, Sean. You've earned the right to take your time. I think that we know what we. It's always nice as well when you're in a community and you're involved with a game where you know what's coming down the line. And so we know that we've got these 2 expansions for Star Forged, and then beyond that, we just know that Ironsworn 2.0 is coming, Ironsworn Sagas, which is the tentative title for it. And when I released that video for the one that had things getting started with Ironsworn in 2025 video, and I wasn't announcing anything. That was all stuff that Sean had put in a Kickstarter backing email, but I don't know if he realizes he did this or whether or not it was just the way that my email presented, but it cut the bottom bit off of the email and you had to click on a window to get the bit underneath which told you the last bit of information, which just happened to be the announcement of what was coming next for Ironsworn. So when I released that video, I had so many people in my DM saying, God, have you got any more inside information about this? And I'm like, no, it was just from the Kickstarter update. And they were like, no, it wasn't. What are you talking about? And I was like, oh, maybe that you just didn't read the email all the way down to the bottom, or like mine, it cut off. When I checked,
we have no inside info.
No insight at all. So I think I checked the script over with Sean before I made that video, so I was being sure that I wasn't saying anything that wasn't already public knowledge, and also I wasn't misleading anyone with any incorrect information. When I asked about Ironsworn Sagas, I did ask whether it would bring Ironsworn in line with the Starforge rule set, and got a very non-committal answer. So that is my one bit of inside information. And actually, given what we've just talked about, like, it makes perfect sense to just have Ironsworn be its own thing. And I don't mean keep Ironsworn 1.0 rules. I mean bring them up to date, but keep them in line to deliver the best experience of what exploring the Ironlands is like. And I think there was talk about having a homestead that you could update and kind of upgrade, which would be super interesting, because obviously we've had that now with our ships on in Starforged, and in perhaps a little greater detail in Sundered Isles, where like you could get really modular and actually you can end up controlling a fleet of ships in Sundered Isles. One boat would be a start for Gideon. Let's try that first. He certainly doesn't have the best of luck currently, but I'm really fascinated as to how it will develop and how broad it will get, because there's a real hankering from the community for a more high fantasy Ironsworn, because Ironsworn is very much kind of low fantasy, low magic, but it is fantastical. So I wonder whether there's going to be levers to pull on for that using the truths, and there's going to be options to, and that's the great thing. Like Sundered Isles, you can whoops or ghosts that, which is what I've done pretty much. Like and those levers and those switches you can flick and dials you can turn. Like, I'm really wondering just how many more there is, and I'm super psyched to see where we go with it. And I think the Lodestar art style and everything, with the new art that Josh had done, like like I really like the new feel. I like there's something charming about the old Ironsworn photo bashed stock asset Vikings. There's something really charming about it. I think the art for that works beautifully. But
Yeah, I agree.
love to see it with resplendent with new art that brings the world alive in a more specific way. Do you know what I mean? So like there's always that one. There's a great picture of a guy running away from a wolf, but it's a real wolf because they exist, right? And you can get a stock image of one. So to have some like horrible elder wolves and things like that brought to life through artwork is going to be beautiful, and I can't wait to see where that goes.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it is super exciting, and I think it will be interesting to see how that conversation continues, because that like non-committal answer could just be like Sean being like, I don't know what the
stop asking me questions. It's 5 years from now.
Yeah. And that's okay, because the things that'll come out of the adventures in a mega city, and then the things that come out of planet side, like all of that stuff could feed into whatever the next evolution of Ironsworn is. And I'm like, I know for myself, I'm having played OG Ironsworn very recently, as like Wednesday, and playing Sundered Isles as well. Like, I'm interested to see going back to combat, because I feel like combat should be really visceral for an Ironsworn, like low magic, Vikings bleak kind of feel. So I'm interested if there are ways to kind of like turn the dial up mechanically on that, taking some of the lessons from Starforged, but applying them in different ways, which maybe not. I don't, I'm excited to see what Sean figures out.
I think the one thing that we know we're going to get is a lot of content, because Ironsworn is a free book and it's 200 and something pages long, and like Starforged is bigger than that, and you're going to get all of the tools you need to tell whatever story you want to tell, which is amazing. And I think it speaks a lot to like how much stuff you have to play with, how many toys you have to play with, that like I've still never used a third party Oracle or anything like that, and I'm still not running out of, even towards the end of the Starforged campaign, I think with the exception of the settlement name Oracle, which I just kept re-rolling the same results on, and that's why like at the end I was just making up names myself. With the exception of that, there's so much space there, there's so much to explore, so much so that like I think you could probably play forever and not get bored with what you're provided in the core book.
Every day for the rest of my life, I'd be perfectly happy.
Exactly. You've said it many times. Now, on the subject of third-party stuff, we'll kind of round out this little celebration of Ironsworn and what's to come and what's been and what state it is in by talking about our homebrew, because people have been using it, the which is wild. Had several people say that they have used the unstat-locked moves, for example, which is cool. Like, I've had no bad feedback, therefore it's a perfect design. That's it. And also we've had a few people using the one legacy track, which is interesting. And one person in particular, I'm sorry I've forgotten your name, I saw you in the comments and I also saw you on Discord somewhere saying that like it's worked really well for you. What I would say now is, after we did that, I have filled in Sundered Isles. I have now filled more boxes on my legacy track than I have ever done in any other game before, because I've been like purposefully pushing relationships and bonds. And I also, spoilers for the next episode of Sundered Isles, completed an epic vow for the very first time in, I think no one's ever done it before. It's just me.
No, of course not.
So yeah, I mean, I will say that it was an extreme vow that I failed to fulfill once and then got regraded to epic. And then
The best sort.
The best sort. So yeah, that's, you know, filling up some boxes. But yeah, I mean, this is me surprising Steve with something now. But I mean, Steve knows about it. He's just going to act coy. But like, I would like to tell the listeners and viewers of this show that whilst 3 or 4 months ago we began an episode of the Ironsworn Guyz, which was entitled "Matt Has an Irrational Fear of Homebrew," I'm pleased to share with everyone that I'm working on my own game, and it's something that's been noodling around in my brain since we did that episode. It is based on the Ironsworn engine, you will all be pleased to know, but it is very different to Ironsworn. And I would say if you looked at the mechanics as they are written down, you'd be like, oh boy, what a fucking mess. And what I will say is I have piled a big heap of spaghetti on this plate, and I'm getting ready to launch it soon and see what sticks to the wall. And once I've started kind of picking off what's remaining, I think there's a game there, but at the minute I've just got too many mechanical features, too much going on, and I know that. But so I don't know what about it is good yet. And you know, we've had some conversations about it, Steve, and you're going to be a bit of a guinea pig for a playtest down the line, which you'll be like, what is this? Why are you doing this? What have you done?
Banging my head against the computer screen.
But what I would say, the one thing I will say is that my first exercise that I did when I sat down to start writing this game, after I'd done my cats and all that kind of stuff, I sat down and I was like, okay, I don't think I need all these moves from Ironsworn Starforged. And like,
here we go.
I started chopping away and I got it down to 4. And then I was like, that's too few. Let's start sticking some back in. But what I will say is that, like, I think I've kind of come up with a way of stripping back a lot of the moves, some of the more specific moves, and moving them into playbook abilities and assets, essentially, which I'm really excited to get into. I won't say any more about this game. I hope that next year, because my biggest problem is I don't really have time at the minute to write this game, but it's now got to the point where, like, I've had some mentoring on this game. I've spoken to several people about this game, and it's like that none of them have yet told me it's awful. So I have to keep going with it until someone tells me it's bad. So I hope that next year we can kind of do like an ongoing development diary, like keep checking in on it, because it's an idea that I'm excited by, but it's a prospect that I'm not excited by, also known as having to work. I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to sit down and work on it. What I really wanted was to talk to one of these people and they say, what a great idea. Do you want me to write that for you? And I'd say, yes, please. Just like, I'll take full credit. But
that's not how it works.
That's not how it works, sadly. So that's,
you got to do the hard work.
Yeah. So that's the update from me and the Ironsworn Guyz as far as Homebrew is concerned. You got any more secrets you're pulling out of the bag?
Not secrets, no. I have two things, which is I have not done anything with kind of our homebrew stuff since we talked about it, but one of the things that I am excited about my journey towards not being burnt out is that I used to noodle around with mechanics a lot, and it is something that I enjoy doing brain space for, and so it is something that I would like to do going forward. So I'm hoping that as I get a little bit of brain juice back, that I can apply it towards something, because I've got a couple of ideas that have been in the hopper for a long time, and also like a couple of ideas that are in reaction to some more recent games that have come out, and ways to incorporate some of the ideas from them into some of the other ideas that I have. Nothing formed in any way that I could talk about, but just I'm excited by the prospect. And then I've got one last comment about the Ironsworn like family of games,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the things that I have appreciated most about Ironsworn and Starforged and everything is something that you mentioned, which is the depth of material that Sean has put into that. And I don't play Starforged every day of my life, although I think my life would be better if I did. Um, but like I play a lot of different games. Obviously, I am on hiatus from my main campaign right now, but my main campaign at the moment is using the Traveler rule set. But every session I sit down to play,
Mm-hmm.
I have the Starforged reference guide next to me because those oracles are a lifesaver, and I use them all the time. I use them in all sorts of games, and I use the Ironsworn Oracle as my yes no oracle because yeah, I could use Mythic,
Mm-hmm.
but uh Mythic has more complexity to it than I feel like I need for the particular thing that I'm doing, whereas the Ironsworn Oracle, like, it's just lodged in my brain,
Mm-hmm.
and so I can just pull it out without really having to think about it. And I want to, even if you don't play Ironsworn, make a pitch for get a hold of those oracles,
Yeah.
because I was running a traveler game for my local group, and they found a derelict starship, and I was like, I could spend like 2 hours meticulously planning out this starship, or I could pick up the Starforge reference guide as we're at the table and roll on various tables to figure out what section of the ship they're in and what the room is that they're going into and what features there might be that might be interesting. And I just ad-libbed basically an exploration of this derelict ship, and it was great. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I just uh kudos to Sean for the Ironsworn system, because I think mechanically the idea of rolling, 2d10 versus 1d6 plus a stat is really satisfying, and it really feeds into the drama and the vibe of the game.
Yeah.
But I feel like even more so, the just Herculean effort to create hundreds of oracles that are like expand beyond just using them in Ironsworn. Good on you, mate. Like,
Yeah. Fair play.
that's yeah, yeah. So
Um,
that's it.
I mean, that's a good thing, and like I'll round off by saying the thing that Ironsworn has changed about the way I play games is even when I'm GMing a game, I play it like it's GMless, and that is a combination of playing a lot of Forged in the Dark now and a lot of CFB games which are hyper collaborative, hyper
Mhm.
focused on sharing narrative authority, but like all of that I would never have got on board with if I hadn't started playing Ironsworn and just been like, oh shit, I got to do something. And this is how you just got to move the story along. You've just got to do it. Take the game by the scruff of the neck and play. And yeah, play every game like it's GMless is a great attitude. And it's changed the way it's changed the way I play games as well. It's given me much more confidence to be like, oh, should we just do this thing and not
Yeah.
spend 2 hours discussing the minutia of a plan, which is go through a door and punch goblin. Like, let's just
Yeah.
be a bit more proactive and get
Yeah.
on with it, because while we're young and all that, let's just
Yeah.
get it done. But yeah, that's happy birthday, Ironsworn. You mean a lot to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
7 years old.
I mean, it is the thing that brought us together as friends.
Sure is,
we did not know each other before Ironsworn.
Yeah, all those years ago, that very first interview that was tech ruined by bad tech.
Lost to the ether.
Lost to the ether. Lost among the starlit wreckage, you could say.
Yeah, there it is.
There we go. But yeah, and yeah, thanks Ironsworn for that, for all the good times. You've never let us down.
It's true.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. Next month is what's next month?
September.
Don't know what we're doing in September. We know what we're doing in October, but September, who knows? But until then, goodbye everyone.
So long.